Okay, guys, I'm running out of ways to start the video. I mean, how do other YouTubers do it? Uh, uh, oh, okay, all right, here you go. No, 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 no. Oh, while yelling and having an excited tone may work. Oh, okay.
You won't believe how hard this insane Slay the Spire challenge run was. Make sure to watch to the end of the video to see the crazy final boss fight. Also, make sure to nuke that subscribe button and turn on the bell for notifications. Let's go!
Jesus, I'm out of breath. Whew, okay, oh yeah, okay, yeah, Slay the Spire challenge video. Okay, alright. After 300 hours of gameplay, I sometimes feel like I've done everything there is to do in the game. I've played every card, taken every relic, fought every enemy. Roguelikes are one of my favorite genre of game because of their replayability, but after 2,000 attempts, I've really run out of decks to build. Which is exactly why in this challenge, I'm not even allowed to build a deck. I'm gonna beat the game only using the starting deck. I mean, how hard could it be? Future Eclipse here. This challenge sucked. Okay, back to past Eclipse. That's weird. I just got this really weird, ominous, foreboding feeling. Oh well, it's probably nothing. Time for the rules. Rule number 1. This one is pretty obvious, but I am not allowed to add or transform any cards in my deck. No cards from combat rewards, no cards from shops, no cards from event spaces. I'm not even allowed to take cards from Tiny House. This rule also includes curses, so if given the opportunity to skip a curse, I have to take it. Rule number 2. Temporary cards from attack, power, and skill potions are fair game because they really only help me in one combat. Relics that add cards, on the other hand, are not allowed, as they are basically a permanent card addition. That means if things like Ninja Scroll, Toolbox, Orrery, or Pandora's Box show up, I'm not allowed to take them. Rule number 3. Just as always, I'll be playing on a random Ascension 0 seed. Shout out to this guy who is actually never wrong. Now, I know my hate and disdain for the Watcher is something I consider to be a core part of my mental philosophy. Not because they have the most complex and versatile playstyle and I'm just too stupid to actually get a good run going with them. That'd be absurd. No. I don't like them because they have 0 relics that benefit the best strategy in the game, Mark. You're trying to tell me that the Watcher has Cloak Clasp and she doesn't have a Mark relic? She's got Duality and she doesn't have a Mark relic? You gotta be kidding me. Well, luckily this challenge finally lets the Watcher shine. Or I guess at least shine a little bit more than the other 3 characters. Her starting hand is by far the most versatile, as Eruption and Vigilance are both pretty good cards. Or again, they're at least better than Bash, Survivor, and Zap. Ambrosia, which is a Watcher specific potion, is also very strong and it plays a pivotal role in the run. Okay, enough Watcher glazing, let's get into the actual run. As always, I took Niao's Lament, not because the run required it, but because I'm a speedrunner at heart and the cultist can go eat a bag of dicks. After checking the map, I spotted a pretty nice path that, assuming I didn't run into any enemies in event spaces, would allow me to fight a 1 HP powered up elite. The cultist, that little piece of, dropped a... Oh yeah, I can't get cards. Never mind, actually. In the shop, I bought a... Oh, yep, nope, I can't buy cards. Alright, don't worry, I'll figure it out eventually. Event space number 1 immediately dashed my dreams of a 1 HP elite with the slime duo, and event space number 2 gave me some much appreciated potions. I used my final trigger of Niao's Lament on the louses and then upgraded Eruption at the rest site. Since I wasn't allowed to pick up any cards, Eruption was more or less guaranteed to be the best card in my deck for the entirety of the run. With a cost of only 1 energy, I'd be racking up 33 damage if I can play 2 strikes. With 2 upgraded strikes, that'd turn into 45 damage, and in a best case scenario with a hand of Eruption and 4 strikes, starting my turn in Calm, I'd be pumping out 81 damage in a single turn, which is a decent bit less than the 999 I was dishing out in my One Punch Man challenge, but I mean, not everything can be that flashy. With a slightly stronger deck, I trudged forwards, running into a louse and a cultist. I drank a distilled chaos, knowing I was due for a potion pretty soon, and got lucky as it played Eruption, allowing me to deal a decent amount of damage to the cultist before it started scaling. A couple more strikes later, I absolutely threw and played a strike before playing Eruption, forcing me to drink my recall potion after I realized the cultist would live on 1 HP with the intent of attacking me for 18. I picked up a dual cast potion, which was a nice consolation trophy for whatever mess I just got out of, and upgraded Vigilance, which is my second best card after Eruption. My Act 1 chest gave me the Nunchucks, which is in the class of relics that seemingly randomly give me energy that I won't pay enough attention to actually utilize. I got a flawless kill on the Looter and picked up an explosive potion to bring my potion count back up to 3 after the disastrous events of 1-7. Never forget. At rest site number 3, I upgraded the first strike of hopefully many, and then turned down doubt as I wasn't allowed to take it anyways. One part of my strategy, which I didn't really talk about because I didn't actually follow it through this run, was trying to fight as many elites in Act 1 as possible. There's a sort of built-in assumption that you'll be fighting elites with basically just your starting hand in Act 1, so they aren't nearly as tough as elites in Act 2 or 3. Because I knew I stood a very slim chance against any one of the Act 3 bosses, assuming I was only playing 3 strikes per turn, relics that allowed me to scale would be a must. Stuff like Shuriken, Kunai, or Calipers could be game-changing, and with every Act 1 elite I fought, I'd be increasing the chances of picking one of them up. For this reason, I decided to avoid the easy route of 2 common enemies and started to fight against the 3 Sentinels. I honestly surprised myself by only taking 8 damage the whole fight. Turns out Wrath is kinda busted. From the combat, I picked up Happy Flower, which was yet another energy relic I'd forget about, and Essence of Steel. A pair of fungi beasts were all that stood in the way of the Act 1 boss, and after a few quick turns, I picked up an explosive potion. One more upgraded strike later, and I was face to face with the Slime Boss. Which is honestly a sort of disappointing name for a boss. All the other bosses get such sick names. You've got Hexaghost, Time Eater, the Collector, the Awakened One. Oh yeah, over there is Slime Boss. He's kinda shy, doesn't really talk much, just goes Slime Crush occasionally. He does have a pretty sick little hat though, so... Hold on, wait. That's like a bowler hat. Wait, hold on. Is he called Slime Boss because he's a mafia boss? He's the boss of the slimes, and he's got an Italian mob boss accent? So when he's saying Slime Crush, he's actually saying it like Slime Crush, like an Italian man? Mafia leader or not, he was standing between me and glory, so I had to start breaking some kneecaps. You guys get it? Because a mafia... Yeah, okay, whatever, man. The Slime Boss is... honestly a little bit of a joke for the watcher. Since the starting deck can already dish out so much damage, splitting him before his big fancy ultimate move is pretty trivial. With no block, I cooked him up in a mere 6 turns with a very well-timed explosive potion thrown in for good measure. Unfortunately, my boss chest was a little bit disappointing, as literally the only relic I was allowed to take was Fusion Hammer, which foiled my plans of a fully upgraded deck. Upon entering the city, I was thrown into a bout with a trio of birds, which, by the way, are spelled B-Y-R-D-S. I don't know, I just thought you guys should know that so we can all be a little bit upset together. Well, with a little bit of S-tier gaming skill, I emerged from the combat with full health, which was apparently entirely unnecessary because in the library I literally couldn't choose a card, which means my damageless victory was pointless. On the next floor, I entered a shop, which, for the first time in the run, I had enough money to actually buy something from. And buy something I did. The Shuriken would be a major pillar for the run's success, as it would act as my only source of damage scaling for the remainder of the challenge. At the Forgotten Altar, I raised my max HP, and then chose the only allowed option from the Augmenter, which was to pick up Mutagenic Strength. I then realized I didn't look at the map long enough when I got to this act, as I somehow picked a route with an unskippable elite. The Book of Stabbing made his unexpected debut and absolutely clobbered me in the process. After a very close fight, I barely made it out alive with only 18 HP to my name. From my flirt with death, I picked up a strawberry, which didn't really feel like a proportional reward for beating a literal demonically cursed book that stabs you with a big knife.
Like, that thing's gotta be at least... Okay, so a quick Google search tells me that the average softcover book has a width of 6 to 9 inches. We can measure the pixels of the profile of the cover on a sprite image and calculate an ellipse to represent the curvature of the page. Looks like 2A is about 125 pixels and B is about 55 pixels. With those figures, we can use this formula to calculate the circumference of the ellipse and get an inch to pixel measurement. Looks like we have a circumference of about 370, which we can divide by 2 as the cover width is only half of that full circle, meaning the cover is about 185 pixels. We can use 7.5 inches as the median for softcover book width, which, after measuring the height of the knife to be 1,950 pixels, gives us an estimated height of
6'6".
Oh, also I got a flex potion. Luckily, the next combat was just a pair of looters whom I made quick work of. I took a much needed rest from the campfire and then passed on an unlucky frozen egg from my Act 2 chest. Into the store for the second time this act, I picked up Lee's Waffle for a full heal. My 2 path options didn't look great, and I wasn't confident that I'd be able to plow through 4 common enemies on only half health. The full heal also allowed me to upgrade... Oh, nope, never mind, I forgot I picked up Fusion Hammer. Well, the full heal also allowed me to fight an upcoming elite, the Taskmaster and his 2 stick-wielding friends. My strength potion enabled me to take out the blue slaver on turn 1, and the rest were soon to follow. I picked up a bag of preparation, making my mutagenic strength more useful, and a fairy in a bottle. My final Act 2 combat had me up against a bird and a chosen, who actually messed me up pretty bad, taking me down to 32. I opted to head toward the shop rather than an event space in case of a surprise combat, and picked up an artifact potion. An odd mechanic that I learned recently is that potions and relics that buff you for a single turn, like mutagenic strength, flex potions, and speed potions, can have their effect applied permanently if you have an artifact. Turns out the lose strength or dexterity at the end of your turn bit is applied as a negative effect, which artifact will remove. That means that, after a quick rest, in my fight against the bronze automaton, I could drink my artifact potion to give myself a permanent 3 strength for the whole combat. I also drank my Essence of Steel potion, and with Fairy in a Bottle as my lifeline, started tossing out attacks. Luckily, with help from some well-timed minion kills and Shuriken buffing me for 5 additional strength, I defeated the automaton without needing to use my extra life. My relic rewards, again, weren't phenomenal. Philosopher's Stone just made me take more damage than I already can really block, and Sozu? Okay, I don't know, man. I tried to look up the pronunciation of this thing, and this is literally the only thing I could find. So, like, I don't know. The water fountain used in Japanese gardens that consists of a segmented tube, usually of bamboo pivoted to one side of its balance point, is also bad because the run relies heavily on potions and relics to get me out of a pinch. The only remaining option was Violet Lotus, which doesn't harm me, but rarely am I going to be drawing enough cards to actually utilize all the energy. Now into Act 3, where this run really gets hard. With no real strategy for the deck and 0 area damage, there were a few Act 3 enemies I wasn't looking forward to seeing. One of those being the Darklings, who invited me into the act. I eventually took them out, but not before losing almost 50 HP. Mind Bloom had me considering upgrading my entire deck, but after just losing more than half my total HP to a couple of blobs, I decided healing was a must for the run and went for an Act 1 boss. I had hoped to see the slime boss again, but was unfortunately pitted up against the Guardian. He wiped the floor with me, forcing me to pop my Fairy in a Bottle and still barely squeaked by with 17 HP. From my almost stunning defeat, however, I picked up a fantastic relic in the form of Tori. Any relic I can pick up that reduces the damage I take is great. I seriously considered taking the full heal from the next event room as I was only on 17 health with 0 potions, at least 2 spaces away from the nearest rest site. I eventually decided to skip the tempting offer as I needed all the max HP I could get if I wanted to make it to the boss. With luck on my side, the first of 2 event spaces before the rest site was a shop where I picked up Damaru. Although I had no way of actually gaining mantra from cards, if I could force a combat to last 10 turns, I'd be able to deal massive damage in Divinity, especially with my strength scaling. I got lucky a second time as my next event space was a chest room, where I picked up oddly smooth stone, giving me some much needed help in terms of blocking incoming damage. I rested at the campfire and then smacked the shapes around for a swift potion. After nap number 2, I picked up the Lantern, adding another turn 1 relic to the mix with my bag of preparation and mutagenic strength already in my arsenal. I opted to head towards a final shop rather than a guaranteed rest site as I had 100 gold and was hoping for something to spend it on.
My walk to the shop was interrupted by a few more Darklings, who I took out with significantly more ease than the previous ones, losing 0 health rather than 50. The aforementioned shop was up next, and I was happy to see an Ambrosia potion, which I proceeded to spend all my money on. After leaving the shop, I ran into the Spire growth, whose Constrict ability took me down to 44 before I could finish it off. I picked up a Blessing of the Forge, which has great synergy with Fusion Hammer, as having upgraded cards is pivotal when running such a slim deck. Speaking of upgrading cards, in the next event space, Ominous Forge, I did just that and smithed a Defend. After defeating another 4 shapes with minimal difficulty, besides the 11 Thorn Spiker, I picked up a second Blessing of the Forge. You know how I said upgrading cards is good? Well, I'm not sure if it's 2 Blessing of the Forges good. Well, regardless, it was my final pickup before the last campfire of the run. Now, even though this run is already a bit controversial, given that I'm playing the Watcher, who I hate, it's about to get even crazier. I don't think I've ever said this before, but on this run, I was really hoping for, the Awakened one. Gross. I feel like I need to go wash my mouth out or something. I don't know, or maybe pray. The reason the Awakened one is such a great choice is that he only has a single way of scaling, power cards, which my deck has 0 of. This means as long as I take care of the 2 cultists, I know exactly what moves the Awakened one is going to use. In his first phase, he's going to either do a bunch of damage, or remove his debuffs. Assuming I can block during the bunch of damage turns, whenever he goes to use Rebirth, I can hopefully play 3 attack cards, bumping my strength by 1. If I do that enough times, I should theoretically be able to kill him right before I'm about to go into Divinity. That way, the moment he switches to phase 2, I can take him out in a single turn. Theoretically. Things started out well enough. I popped one of my 2 Blessing of the Forge potions as I drew 3 of the 5 unupgraded cards remaining in my deck. I took a decent bit of damage on the first few turns as I was playing a very aggressive strategy to get rid of the cultists as fast as possible. After a few turns in my second Blessing of the Forge potion to upgrade the rest of my deck, I took them both out. Now it's time to switch to defense. As long as I drew 2 defense on his 20 damage turn or 3 defense when he was dealing 24, I'd really only be taking 1 damage during any of his attacks. That unfortunately didn't always happen though. I was losing health faster than I could scale strength. I knew that the most damage he can do in phase 2 was 40, so as long as I didn't drop below that, I'd have 2 turns to wipe him out. My health unfortunately kept getting lower and lower, and after a big hit on an unlucky turn, I decided it was time to enter phase 2. I'd amassed 6 strength and was hoping it'd be enough. Each strike would be dealing 45 damage apiece in Divinity. As long as I could live a few hits, the battle would be won. My first draw in phase 2 was terrible. With only 2 attacks, I had no choice but to drink my Ambrosia potion as I ended the previous turn in Wrath, doubling the 40 damage to 80. I played all my cards, dealt 90 damage, and blocked for 27. I still had 3 more turns before I'd be in Divinity again, so my highest priority was to just survive. Turn 2 wasn't much better, giving me attacks when I needed defense. I ended up taking 11, bringing me down to only 20 health as opposed to the Awakened One's 200. With 1 turn until Divinity, I bunkered it down, blocking the 18 damage and dealing 15 of my own. An unfortunate deck rotation left me with a void at the worst time. I still managed to dish out 90 damage, but took another 11, leaving me on 9. The run would have ended here if I hadn't drawn the 2 MVPs of the challenge, Eruption and Vigilance. An Eruption and a Strike took the Awakened one down to 70, and Vigilance and Defend blocked a perfect 22, which, after taking 30, left me on 1 HP. I knew the boss would be dealing 18 next turn, so all I needed were 2 blocks. Miraculously, that's exactly what I drew, and I played all 5 cards, dealing 45 and blocking all 18. With the Awakened one on 45 after healing 10, I was a mere turn away from victory. As long as I drew 3 strikes or 1 strike and Eruption, the challenge would be beaten. But, alas, today was not the day. Just kidding, it actually was. I drew a eruption and a strike and killed the weird bird thing. Okay, thanks, goodbye. Okay, that's it. The video's over. Okay, goodbye. All right, goodbye. Thank you. Goodbye. Subscribe. Okay, bye. Okay, bye.